In a previous video, we talked about how to graph horizontal lines. In this video, we will review some of those concepts and begin talking about how to graph vertical lines. Horizontal lines can be represented with the equation y equals b, where b is some number or constant. In this video, we will look at how we can generate horizontal lines. But before we do, let's have a brief review of the horizontal lines. Let's consider a specific equation of a horizontal line. Let's say that we want to graph y equals 5. We can think of this in a number of different ways, and in a previous video we related this equation to the equation of a line, y equals mx plus b, where the slope was simply 0, where we plugged in a 0 for m, the slope. That caused this term to become 0, and when we had 0 with b, we were just left with y equals b. In this case, that would mean that the y-intercept is 5, and the slope is 0, and we were able to graph the line using that logic. Let's think of it in a different way that might help us when we work with vertical lines here. If we think of y equals 5 as just providing us with a rule as a set of all the ordered pairs where the y-coordinate has to be 5. There's no other restrictions on the x-coordinates. All that we care about is that no matter what we pick for a point, the y-coordinate is 5. So we could pick a point as long as the y-coordinate is 5, it should work. So let's pick 1, 5. If I plot 1, 5, I'll go to the right 1 and up 5. This should be a point on the line because it satisfies the rule. Its y-coordinate is 5. Let's pick another point that should satisfy this rule, that the y-coordinate is 5. Let's pick -3. So if we go -3 to the left and up 5, we'll end up right here. And let's just pick one more. The y-coordinate has to be 5. And let's pick 4 for the x-coordinate. So I'm going to go to the right 4 and up 5 right here. Notice that all of these points lie on the same line, and that line is horizontal. So when I graph the line y equals 5, I end up with a horizontal line. We think of this as the rule states that the y-coordinate has to be 5 on every single point. Now if we look at this graphically, we looked at it first looking at these points, but we can also look at this graphically. No matter where you go on this line, the y-coordinate is always 5. If I go from here, if I travel up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this point on the line has a y-coordinate of 5. I can pick values that are between grid lines, like right in here. As long as I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'll end up on the line. The y tells me I have to travel up 5 units in order to arrive at a place on the line. If we apply that logic to vertical lines, what could we think here? First, let's go ahead and just plot a vertical line. I'm just going to go ahead and draw a vertical line on the graph here, right about here. And now we're going to see if we can come up with an equation for it. Is it true that every single point has the same y-coordinate? If you look at this closely, you'll see that that is not the case. But is it true that every single point has the same x-coordinate? Let's find out. Let's find the coordinates of this point first off. And the coordinates of that point, it looks like we're going to have to go to the right 3, so the x-coordinate is 3. and we're going to have to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that point is 3, 5. And let's go ahead and find the coordinates of this point. This one's going to be to the right 3 and up 1. Let's find the coordinates of this point. This will be to the right 3 and down 3, so it's going to be 3, negative 3. What are we noticing about every single one of these points on the line? What's the same about them? The x-coordinates are always the same. And what are the x-coordinates? They're 3. So if I wanted to write an equation for this line, I'm noticing that the rule that I have to follow is that x has to equal 3. We can also look at this graphically, similar to how we did with the vertical lines. No matter what point we travel to on the line, we have to travel in the x direction 3 units. No matter where we want to end up on the line, from the axis here, we need to go to the right 3 units every single time. So we get x equals 3. Now it's a very common misconception that we look at this and we see x equals. And you know that the x is the horizontal axis. So you want to think about x equals 3 as a horizontal line, but that's not the correct reasoning. That's not the way that this actually works out. What you want to think about is that the x-coordinate of each and every point is 3. So you always have to go to the right 3. That will result in a vertical line. Let's take some other examples here. Let's go ahead and graph x equals 4, and then we'll go ahead and graph x equals negative 5. First off, to graph x equals 4, all we need to do is think every single coordinate has to have, or every single point has to have an x-coordinate of 4. We need to go to the right 4. So to do this, I'm going to go ahead and start from the origin, and I know that the x-coordinate has to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So this should be a point that satisfies this rule. I can pick any other point up here, and as long as I go to the right 4, I should be on the line. Go to the right 4. And here we can see the pattern. This is simply going to be a vertical line, just like this. To graph x equals negative 5, we can use the same strategy. We're just going to have to go to the left. The x-coordinates have to be negative 5, so I need to go to the left 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And no matter where I go on the y-axis, I should go to the left 5 units. And if I do that, I should be able to connect these points in order to create a vertical line. Now let's go ahead and graph y equals 4, and let's compare what that should look like. Notice here that this is a y equals and not an x equals, so that means that all of my coordinates have to have, or all of my points have to have a y coordinate of 4. So I'm going to go up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, no matter where I go. 1, 2, 3, 4, I have to go up 4 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, and now this, if it's y equals, will be a horizontal line like this. Remember, don't think of the x equals as the x-axis being horizontal, so the line is horizontal. That is not correct. You need to think of it as the x-coordinate of every single point on the line will be the same. So if you need to plot out some points, if you need to write out some points, like we did earlier, this tells us that the x-coordinate, which is the first coordinate, always has to be negative 5. So plot some points and just pick some y values. It doesn't matter what you pick. I'd pick some positives and some negatives, and then you can plot those points. Negative 5, 0. Negative 5, comma 2, that should be on the line. Negative 5, negative 3. No matter where you go, that x-coordinate is negative 5. That'll give you a vertical line.